Gurudev, Barbara Briggs.
Jai Gurudev.
It is a very interesting. We are in the bank of the Ganga, Yamuna, and Sarasvati rivers, where now we are having a Kumbh Mela. And I would like to ask you, how did it happen that you came to India, to live in India, to be connected, and to come to this place?
Well, it seems that my destiny was to come in India because nature just drew me here, and I first had this feeling that I should come to the East. Because when I was a child in America, I never felt really comfortable in the country. I felt that America was not really my home, and I felt that I should be somewhere else, but I didn't know where it was.
Wow.
So I traveled to England after graduating from university because I didn't feel comfortable in America, and I traveled to England. And in England, I learned to meditate. I actually learned the transcendental meditation technique, and I actually met Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in London a few months after I started meditating. And that first meeting with Maharishi really made a great impact on my life, because I felt that it was the first time that anyone had ever really seen me. When Maharishi looked at me, we went up to his room after the meeting. There were about 50 people there. I was with the teacher who had taught me to meditate. And when Maharishi looked at me, I felt that it was the first time in my life that anyone had ever really seen me. I felt I was totally transparent to his gaze, and that he knew everything about me in that first glance. And this made a very deep impression on me. I had learned to meditate, and then I met Maharishi. And then a few years passed, and I actually went to Maharishi's headquarters in Switzerland to learn to become a teacher of transcendental meditation. And there in Switzerland, I had the ability to listen to Maharishi's lectures at a very close quarters, and even to ask Maharishi questions about the spiritual path. And every time that I had an interaction with Maharishi, there was such a deep feeling of bliss. It was like a laser beam of bliss was coming towards me when Maharishi looked at me. And I just felt so much upliftment, and I felt so much bliss inside. And I felt that this is something very, very special in my life. But it wasn't really until 1986, actually, that I had the opportunity to go to India for the first time. I was in a competition. It was to do with an advanced practice of transcendental meditation, the TM Siddhi, SIDHI technique. And there was a competition of yogic flying. This is a kind of practice where the body actually lifts off the ground. This has to do with the mind-body coordination, and it's advanced practice which one can learn after learning transcendental meditation. And I was part of the competition, and at the end of the competition, some of the people who had won some of the medals were able to have a free ticket to India. And I was, by the grace of destiny, I was one of them. And that was my first trip to India. And I was able to go to Maharishi's ashram. There were like 2,000 pundits there chanting the Vedas. And it was just like a dream, because the whole atmosphere was permeated with such a quality of inner peace and stillness and bliss. And the Pandit boys were just like 8, 9, 10 years old. And at dawn, the whole ashram was filled with the sound of the Vedic recitation. And this was the first time I'd been exposed to that. And my whole body was vibrating in bliss. And I felt, as soon as I set foot in India, I felt I have finally found my home. I have finally found the place where I belong. And this feeling was so strong, I didn't want to leave India. I stayed in the ashram for 4.5 months with Maharishi and the Pandit boys, and I was learning about Ayurveda. Maharishi was uncovering the knowledge of perfect health and prevention of disease. and I learned many things there. And it just fueled my love for India, increased so much in those 4.5 months. And after that, I went to India again a few years later to study Sanskrit in Varanasi. That was also a very holy place and a very powerful place. And I felt a lot of spiritual development just by staying in that very holy atmosphere of Varanasi on the bank of the Ganges. And I also went to India again to study sitar in Shimla in the mountains. And every time I went to India, my love for India increased. And right now I've been in India now over 20 years, and I've traveled all over the country. I've met so many people. And the thing that I love about India the most is that the Vedic knowledge, Ved means knowledge, Gyan, and the Vedic knowledge is so lively in India, and they have the knowledge of those primordial sounds which structure the very basis of the material world. The deepest level of matter is sound and light and vibration. And the Vedic pundits here, through the tradition of knowledge that they grow up in, they've preserved that Vedic tradition of recitation. And this tradition is really what will contribute to creating peace in the world, because they are enlivening the deepest level of nature, the level of nature's functioning, the structural level of nature's functioning through their Vedic recitations and their Vedic performances, which are leading the world to a higher level of unity, harmony, and peace. So this is what I treasure about India the most, the Vedic knowledge. I've studied Sanskrit. When I read Sanskrit, I feel like I'm in a deep state of meditation as a result of the vibrations of Sanskrit. And they say that even reciting Sanskrit changes the brain, and it enlivens the very deep values of brain physiology, which increase one's concentration, one's intellectual performance, one's coherence and synchrony in the brain. It's a very evolutionary practice just to recite Sanskrit. So this is why I was brought to India. This is why I live in India. I feel one with the culture. The people have a deep understanding of what it means to live a spiritual life. I'm now in Prayagraj, and there's a Kumbh Mela going on, and there are hundreds of people who come to bathe in the river just to increase their oneness with the divine value of life. They come here and they take their bath, and they just have such devotion and so much feeling of reverence, and so many different aspects of life here. The trees are holy, the ground is holy, the river is holy, the sky is holy, and they recognize that the whole universe is holy. It's permeated by that value of consciousness, and consciousness is the deepest level of life itself. And the tradition of moving in the direction of God is so lively in this culture, and one feels that presence of the divine in these holy places. The feeling of peace and the feeling of unity, the feeling of harmony, the feeling of love is just vibrating in the air, and you just feel that you are inundated with love and peace and unity, and the value of really understanding the innermost sacred value of life itself. So this is what has brought me here.
Yes.
And I can just say that India is my country, and India is the place that I will spend the rest of my life, because it is a very sacred place.
Is there any special message for young people in the West from your side?
The message that I would give is to turn within, that the world at this time needs people who are in touch with their inner self. And the inner self is that value of pure consciousness. And pure consciousness can be very easily actualized and very easily experienced through the practice of transcendental meditation. It's a very simple, natural, and effortless mental technique that doesn't require any change in lifestyle, belief, or diet. And it enables everyone to transcend even from the very first sitting of meditation. And this gives you a taste of that inner bliss And as you continue to meditate, you find that the inner happiness that you are seeking in your life is deep within you, and that the higher self is awakened, and that self will lead you in the direction of living more and more in harmony with all the laws of nature. And when you live in harmony with nature, your desires get fulfilled spontaneously, and you begin to live a life that you've dreamed of, because you're giving to life. When you meditate, you're enlivening peace in the world, and that peace that you radiate comes back to you, and your life becomes more and more an expression of what you really desire it to be from the deepest level. So I would say, turn within, experience pure consciousness, and live the life you really have dreamed of and which you really would like.
Would you like to state just one key word that resumes everything for you concerning the brightness that you somehow you are looking for in India, but also for the world? So I think India is the bridge for transcendence.
Yes, I would say transcend.
Yeah.
Go beyond. Transcend.
Go beyond.
Go beyond the material level and experience the inner value of life, which is pure bliss consciousness. Satchit Ananda, eternal consciousness of bliss. Just turn within, transcend, and experience who you really are at the deepest level of your own being.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.